I would like to start with the thanks to your messages. This is important to me to know that these little videos I'm doing are useful for some among you. And I just would like to remind that these videos are meant and are addressed not to composers, not probably even to artists, because the answer I can give probably composers that belongs to my middle, my field, they already know the answers. But these are the answers to all those people who ask me very often some questions, and I never took the time to give these answers. So this answer started 20 years ago when I started to teach in Montbéliard. Why Montbéliard? The previous director of IRCAM, Bernard Stigler, 5 times asked me why Montbéliard and not with me in IRCAM, at IRCAM. Why don't you teach these kind of things at IRCAM? Or Luciano Berio, why Montbéliard? Huh? What's there that is not with me in Florence, okay? And to give you the answer, why Montbéliard? Because Montbéliard is a little town in France, and it was in 1999 when I started quite uncomfortable to reach by train or by car, because it's in a way far from the big cities like Paris, like Milan, like Zurich, and so on. So to answer to this question, I have to describe how did I study composition. I decided to be a composer at the age of 12. And my parents immediately were afraid of how Jacopo will live, with which kind of money Jacopo can produce being a composer. And mainly, are we sure that Jacopo should study composition? So my mother asked around her, among her friends, do you know somebody who could check if Jacopo should or not study composition? And there was a master, Roberto Hudson, in Milan, who was quite well known at the time. And he checked me, he made me a sort of test. So I went at his house with my scores of symphonic music, chamber music, soloist music. Of course, I was a child, so it was naive, this kind of music production. But nevertheless, this master could see immediately how deep I wanted to be a composer. And he told immediately to my mother not to send me to the Conservatory of Milan, because he explained to my mother that in that Conservatory of Milan there was too many politics games that teachers among them made permanently inside competitions in order to be the most important piano teacher, the most important violin teacher, the most important compositional teacher. The most important meant I have the big network and I have the biggest power, because I am the most well known. I can send my students to that concert hall, to that competition, to that orchestra, and if you don't study with me, you do not have the same possibility of express yourself. It is a fact, there is no polemics. You can just verify with some students of that time. Probably nowadays things change a lot, but in Milan it was a fact. As I was too young, Hudson invited my mother to send me to another school, the so-called Civica Scuola di Milano. It is quite close. Geographically, it's, I think, 3 kilometers distance, okay? The conservatory is in the middle, in downtown, and the Civica is just a little far from the downtown. but by car it takes 10 minutes from the conservatory to the Civica. And my mother said immediately that there was a problem, main problem, that is when you study inside the conservatory, you have to pass the internal exam, even to get your diploma, you do internally. It means you study with your teacher or your teachers or professors, and then you get a certain level. There is a sort of global evaluation during the years, and there's sort of a windowing evaluation on how you are doing, what you are doing now, but what you have done before. So this constant evaluation makes every student somebody who is known. So there's a high level of expectation, of course, but at the same time, if something is not perfect that day, we can know if this student has some family problem, some healthy problem, some psychological disease in this moment, and so on. To the contrary, when you study into a school that cannot deliver official diploma, or who has not this school that is not officially recognized, you have to pass the same exam in the official schools. So in Milan there was the official school, music school, that was the conservatory, and was a so-called unofficial or not officially recognized, that was the Civica. And between these two quite close geographically schools, there was a sort of, not fighting, the Civica depended by the conservatory. But inside the Civica there was very good teachers, a lot of soloists coming from the orchestra by the Scala di Milan, La Scala di Milano, were teachers inside the Civica. So the quality of the teacher was very high, but they could not deliver an official degree, an official diploma. And the difference is extremely important to point out. When you pass an exam, as I told you, there is an average, there is a windowing evaluation about the student. But when you do an exam like a private, I think we can say private, what we call in Italian privatista, or in French we say candidature libre. So when you do an exam privately, you don't know the jury, and you have to prove they are good enough to get the same level of those students that the jury know perfectly. So the difference between passing an exam as an insider or passing the same exam as an outsider, as a private, is the exam becomes a competition. You have to prove that you are really good, and the same level of expectation has a sort of zero tolerance of mistakes, because they don't know you, and you have to prove that you are good, if you are good, or good enough to get that result. This is the beginning of my answer. I studied in that situation. Then in 1999, I left IRCAM because Luciano Berio called me in Florence to start a new department of research of how to teach composition for young people and also for professional people. And in the same year, La Sorbonne, the university in Paris, the department of musicologists asked me to make several sessions of lessons about how to teach, how new technology can help teachers in making musical analysis. We were in 1999, okay? In these three contexts, so Montbéliard, Temporale, and Sorbonne, everybody was older than me. In Florence, I created a team with several persons, like Michele Tadini, Thierry Coduis, Nicola Zonca, Paolo Solcia, and many others. All of them were older than me. And in the Sorbonne, as I was teaching in the master level, I was the same age than the students. Some students were older than me. And in Montbéliard, I was younger than my students. So I had really to focus on what I want to teach and why I want to teach in the Sorbonne, it was quite clear. It was in Paris, it was cool to say, oh, I teach in the Sorbonne, okay? And in Florence, it was magnificent. I was working close, very close with Luciano Berio. I was studying with Luciano Berio. So it was something extremely meaningful for me. Even if my sentimental life was in Paris, I moved all the time to Florence. Montbéliard was quite out of this sort of circuit, this sort of, I don't know the name, sorry, not circle, but triangulation, okay, between Paris, Milan, Florence, and Montbéliard. But the director of Montbéliard, when he called me, the previous one, he asked me, Jacopo, I called you because I want you to create a new class of composition. I don't want you to create a contemporary music class of composition, okay, so-called academic one. You have white paper, so you do something completely new, tabula rasa. So I made a list of wishes, a list of needs, and I started teaching in Montbéliard. And this information was spread out quite quickly, so immediately many composers coming from Milan, Naples, Turin, Paris, of course, but also from Brasilia, from Buenos Aires, from Spain, from Turkey, from Finland, from Holland, and so on and so on and so on. Many, have already their own diploma, their own, we can say nowadays, a PhD level. They came in Montbéliard to study with me. And nowadays I have a team of 7 teachers, and we teach to children, from children to professional, let's go professional composers, the so-called music creation. Why these people came to me, despite the fact that they have already a quite big and important diploma. Somebody of them has even more than one diploma given by great institution, and I insist on the level, the master level degree, the master degree or the PhD degree. And this is because what I could give in Montbéliard was not academic. Let's say that what we call academic is when a society has a certain number of needs, certain number of, needs probably is the right terms. A society makes a reverberation with aesthetics, or the society produces some aesthetics, and these aesthetics are in reverberation with the society. It means the needs society has, okay, find some possible answer, some possible realization, some possible prototypes to these needs by the artists of that period that define aesthetics. Even at the same time, you can have several aesthetics that cover the ensemble of needs of a society. But societies change quickly, and nowadays very quickly. And what's happened when a society changes in time, and the aesthetics stays there? There is not more reverberation. I mean, the needs that are here should need another aesthetics. So the academics is when people composing still in this academic, not still in this aesthetic vision, okay, but because an aesthetic is a vision of the reality, even if it is invented, okay. People composing in this aesthetic while the society changed, they produce something that has not a feedback with the society. So this is called academic. In Montbéliard, I have the possibility not to teach academically. And this is huge for me. This is probably the best way of teaching art. Because what does it mean teaching academically? Of course, we teach how to compose a fugue, how to compose in contrapoint, how to make harmonization or orchestration. We teach how to make things playable. We teach of course, ancient music, if you want to study the ancient music, and sometimes it's useful to know ancient music, because if you have to make a music for a movie, and in this movie there is a part of the movie that happened, I don't know, in the 17th century, and they ask you to compose something close to that period, you should be able to do it. So we do not teach academically, and we do not teach academic music, but we also teach music from the past. But if somebody wants to compose a music for a music installation, for an interactive installation, they come to me and they can do it. If somebody wants to study completely computer self-generated music, they come to me and they can study it, and they can learn how to do it. There are people who came from Turkey just because they wanted to study with me several compositional or orchestrational techniques. There were composers coming from South America, from Buenos Aires. They produced tango music, but they wanted to renew the tango that is completely far from my personal aesthetics, and I taught them how to do it. Because for their society there was a reverberation, a need how to renew it. And this is important. So till when I can teach with this kind of freedom, I will stay in Montbéliard. The actual director, I like him very much, continue the same philosophy than the previous one. It means that the music creation should be all in crossing all the conservatory. That's why we are 7 teachers of composition in a little town, in a quite little conservatory, okay? And we teach 7 composers, teaching composition and creation from the beginning, from the children to the professionals. Till when I can be the head of this department and I can teach in that way, I will stay in Montbéliard. Because there are no politics games inside this kind of teaching. I give you several examples to understand it. The first one is the following. As soon as one of my students reach a certain level of maturity, musical maturity, artistically maturity, independently from his or her age, independently of how many diplomas this person has or how many diplomas should have, I take this composer with me and with his music, and he or she comes with me making concerts all around the world. It was the case from New York, from Harvard, in New York, in Harvard, in Santiago del Chile or La Serena. I went many times in South America, in Asia, in China, in Tokyo, and so on. So I bring them as apprentice, young artists, and I promote them directly. I will dedicate a video only on the notion of apprentice in art. And of course, this fact has been known quite quickly. So it happened several times that several composers, men and women, they arrived in Montbéliard with very good diploma and say, look, I studied there. It meant this is because I'm good. This is not written, but it was the intention, okay? And they studied with me not because they wanted to study with me, but exactly as it happens in Paris in some class, I perfectly know, where students go there, they are technically there, tell this teacher, but they don't even follow any classroom, and they are just, they make the inscription, they are registered inside the school just to be pushed in several concert halls, in several orchestra, and so on, like in Milan. So I don't want it. And in Montbéliard, I pushed out, I ejected some students because they came to me not to study with me, but to say that they wanted to study to me or they were studying with me. So till when Montbéliard allows me to do this kind of teaching, I will stay in Montbéliard. And that's the reason why I am there, because they gave me this possibility. The second part of the answer now, and you can understand why I started with the Civica of Milano, is that, and I'm addressing now to young composer, young artists. Are you really sure that when you want to win a competition when you want to convince a sponsor that you have to show your diplomas? Are you really sure that people is waiting for you for your diploma when you are in the artistic field? I worked with tens of artists all around the world, from movie fields, with sculptors, with poets, with sponsors for quite spectacular events. They never ask me where I took my diploma and which vote did I get for that exam or diploma. The real artistic life, it's a permanent competition, like the one I lived when I was student in the Civica. They are not exam, no, there are competitions. Zero level of tolerance. It means either it goes, it passes, otherwise it crashes, okay? It means that the way of learning music should not be based on exam, but should be based on what you want to do, and I teach you how to do. That's why in Montbéliard we teach, pre-language techniques and body language communication, how to write a dossier, it means a project. It's not sufficient to say, I would like to compose a music for orchestra. Okay, everybody wants, or everybody would like to do it. But how to defend your own ideas, how to promote your ideas. This is a sort of permanent competition if you want that your project succeeded. As I said in the very first video, to be successful is the only important thing for an artist. It means that something happens, something takes place. And what I teach in Montbéliard is this, how to do, belonging to your own idea or to the idea of the student, how his student can be practically put inside a production in order to exist. No diploma, no game, just music, you see. So these, I think, are the main reasons to answer you to this question of why Montbéliard.